a number of other, I was also talking about property taxes, some other things as well, also signing that legislation to protect public beach access. Thanks for joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus this morning. We still have a lot to get to later today, so we hope you join us at 2 o'clock for Florida Live. We are going to be speaking with FPL about their preparations for hurricane season. We are going to be, it's Playbook Tuesday, so that means we're going to be talking with Politico Florida. Going to be talking a lot about that special election in Orlando, a number of other things as well, and we are previewing.
Florida Live starts now.
Well, good afternoon to you and welcome into Florida Live. I am Garrett Wymer and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon live on Fox Local and on YouTube. Been a busy day and showing no signs of slowing down, so we want to go ahead and jump right in, let you know what we have coming up for you later in the show here on Florida Live. Coming up at around 2:30, we're going to be talking the NBA draft. The first round kicks off tomorrow night, and what does that mean for the Magic, for the Heat, some of the other teams, and some of the prospects here coming out of the state of Florida. We'll talk all about that with Brandon Kravitz coming up at 2:30. It is also a special election day in Senate District 15. This is the race to replace the late state Senator Geraldine Thompson. The Democratic primary for that being held today. Some interesting dynamics in that race. We'll talk all about that with Kimberly Leonard from Politico coming up in about 20 minutes. But we begin today with Florida Power and Light and talking about hurricane season prep. So we know a hurricane season started a couple of weeks ago, coming up on 3 weeks now. And we now have the first tropical storm formed in the Atlantic. Thankfully, no threat to land, no threat to Florida, but it certainly kind of gets us thinking about this hurricane season as we get ready for things to ramp up. And we know that a lot of preparations underway and going on year-round, really, for utility companies like Florida Power and Light. Joining me live now in the streaming studio is Jack Eble, a spokesperson for FPL. And Jack, really appreciate you joining us this afternoon here on Florida Live.
Thank you for having me. It's an important subject. We really want people, like you said, to start thinking about their plans for this hurricane season.
I want to first start with FPL's plans for hurricane season, and I would imagine that this is a time of year, specifically as we start to see things kind of ramp up as we get later in the season, that there are a lot of challenges. What are some of the big challenges for FPL when it comes to hurricane season and even just storm season here in Florida?
Really, it's a year-round focus for us. So start to finish, before hurricane season, during hurricane season, after hurricane season. This is something that we're focusing on year-round, both investing and enhancing the electric grid, also training our teams. At the beginning of May, we completed our annual storm drill. This puts our employees through a mock hurricane scenario that we're able to put our current processes to the test. And that helps us to find ways to be even better when the next storm comes, because we truly operate in a manner of it's a matter of when, not if, the next storm will impact Florida. So really, this is a focus for us all throughout the year, which is really why we really want our customers and Floridians throughout the state to start thinking about what their emergency plan is going to be. Make sure that you take this time now before a storm is on our doorstep to refresh, finalize, get that understanding of the best decisions that you and your family will make when the next storm comes.
What are some of those things that you recommend for folks to do now when we are talking about it, it being much slower right now? What are some things that folks should do, should keep in mind?
Yeah, some of those thought starters can look as simple as check those batteries, flashlights, radios, things like that, phone chargers. Do you have one for a car as well? Making sure you have those tools that are ready for you should you experience an outage during a hurricane this year. Also, do you have a loved one that has medically essential equipment that's dependent on electricity? What's your plan for that individual? Is it relocation? Is it backup power? And make sure that you have a plan for that person well before a storm is on our doorstep. Are you planning on using a generator this year? So one of those things at this point, before a storm is on our doorstep, really get that understanding of the manufacturer's guide. We want to make sure that you know how to operate that equipment safely before a storm is here and before you may use it. So some of those safety tips would look like never operate a generator near an opening in your home or business, such as a window, a garage, a door. We just want to make sure that now you understand how to use that equipment should you need it. And we have a website, it's fpl.com/storm, has a lot of checklists, resources, thought starters, ideas, things for you to keep in mind for your home and or business preparing for hurricane season.
Obviously, power outages are something that everyone hopes never happen, but just, it's inevitable at some point given, what we're dealing with in many of these hurricanes and many of these storms. Can you talk about the steps FPL takes to make sure that those disruptions are minimized as much as possible and you're able to get power back on as quickly as possible?
We've seen enhancements we've made to the grid over the course of 2 decades now benefit our customers during hurricane situations. We also know that no grid can ever be 100% storm proof. So what that looks like for us is before a storm, you will see our crews at locations called staging sites. These are the mini cities where crews will eat, sleep, keep their equipment during the duration of a restoration. And those are at predetermined locations throughout the state of Florida. And they're activated in areas we expect to see the greatest impact from a storm. And the value of these staging sites is as soon as it's safe to do so, our crews can spring right into action and begin restoring power safely and as quickly as possible for our customers. And so that process of restoration, once we're able to ensure that our power plants are generating electricity and our transmission structures are able to transmit it throughout the state of Florida, we're first starting with the critical infrastructures like hospitals, 911 call centers. We're then moving to community essentials like gas stations and grocery stores. And it's important to keep in mind that while these critical infrastructures and community essentials are coming back online, thousands of customers are coming online at the same time. We're then dialing in on those hardest hit areas, those neighborhoods going house by house that may require a crew to get into your backyard, for example, getting every last person their lights back on. And it's really a part of our tried and true process of restoring power to the largest amount of customers in the shortest amount of time.
So what do you want people to know? What should the takeaway be? And as we do head deeper into hurricane season, what should people really kind of keep in mind?
So one of the things that we always want to emphasize as part of your emergency plan is safety. So a storm makes impact, clears the area, the hazards by no means are gone. So if you ever see a down power line or damaged electric equipment, call 911 and then FPL at 1-800-4-OUTAGE. Never go into standing water. You don't know if there is potentially any damaged equipment or what may be beneath that water that could present a risk to you and your neighbors. So please make sure safety is top of mind. If you're planning on doing anything around your roof, for example, taking down a satellite, for example, make sure that you take note of where overhead power lines may be in your neighborhood. Make sure that you, the equipment you're holding, everything stays at least 10 feet away from the nearest power line to ensure your safety. Like I said, we have our website, fpl.com/storm, has a lot of these safety tips and information. We really want people to start thinking about how to ensure their safety before, during, and after a potential storm.
Better to start thinking about those things now than when you're in the middle of that storm. A lot easier to plan things out in advance when things aren't happening. Jack Eble, spokesperson for Florida Power and Light. We appreciate your time, and thanks for joining us this afternoon here on Florida Live.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon live on Fox Local and on YouTube. It is time now for our Tampa Connection, and for that we go to Fox 13 digital content producer Nancy Gay. And Nancy, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Garrett. Thanks for having me. Today we're going to start off in Polk County, where this morning Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd held another one of his famous press conferences. This time, he said that investigators have seized the most amount of fentanyl ever in Polk County history. Now, Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd said this investigation began in July of 2024, and it involved two of Mexico's largest cartels. That's the Jalisco as well as the Sinaloa. He said 6 suspected Jalisco and 2 suspected Sinaloa members have been arrested. Now, Judd said they were actually part of an international drug ring and that they were international drug smugglers. And he added that one arrestee has an immigration detainer on her, and another person who was arrested actually served 4 years in prison after being arrested in 2020 with 60 kilograms of liquid meth. Judd said a total of 64 pounds of fentanyl was seized, and he said that's enough to kill 14.5 million people. Now, the sheriff said the drugs were coming across the southern border into Phoenix, Arizona, and then to Florida. He did say that the amount of drugs coming across the border has decreased since the border has been sealed, but some drugs are still making their way through. He said that these drug smugglers were actually using car batteries to transport the drugs, and they even rigged up the batteries so that they would still work a car despite having, he said, about 5 pounds of fentanyl inside of them. Now, detectives worked with the FDLE, Homeland Security in Phoenix, as well as here in Tampa, the U.S. Border Patrol, the Auburn Police Department, the State Attorney's Office, and the U.S. Postal Inspection Service from the Tampa and Phoenix offices to make these arrests. Now, Judd did note that between 2018 and 2023, 340,000 people died from fentanyl overdoses in the United States. He said while they did make the largest fentanyl seizure in Polk County history, that the war on drugs is far from over and more investigations will be happening in the future. Garrett?
It's just crazy to hear them say enough to kill 14.5 million people. Kind of really puts all that in perspective. Also, Nancy, an update this afternoon in a capital murder case that you've been following.
Yes, that's right. This is the case of Ronnie Walker, and we learned this morning that a jury took about 2 hours to find Ronnie Walker guilty of shooting and killing 14-year-old Alexia Alexander and leaving her body in a Tampa field, and that this happened back in 2022. Investigators said that Alexia, who did have a habit of running away from home, was actually seen on video getting into Walker's car around 3 a.m. on May 6th of 2022. About 15 minutes later, witnesses said they heard gunshots near Florida and Highland. Investigators say that Alexia's cell phone was actually still in Walker's car after the shooting. Now, this allowed them to track his whereabouts during and after the murder. Prosecutors said Walker actually sought out Alexia that night and argued with her about her sexual history before shooting her once in the car and then 3 more times at close range in an empty field. Now, 2 witnesses that the prosecution relied on during trial were Robert Creed. Now, he was the 3rd person in the car the night that Alexia was shot, as well as Stanley Wilson. Now, both of these men do have extensive criminal histories, and they have been known to lying to investigators. Now, Creed even pleaded guilty to being an accessory to the crime that is Alexia's murder. He said he saw Walker shoot Alexia, and he is hoping for favorable treatment in his own sentencing for initially lying to detectives. The defense here for Ronnie Walker did not call any witnesses, and Walker did not take the stand in his own defense. Again, it took the jury less than 2 hours to find him guilty of killing 14-year-old Alexia Alexander. As we mentioned, this is a death penalty case, and the sentencing phase will begin at 10 a.m. on Thursday. Now, the same jury that found Ronnie Walker guilty will be the same jury that hears the sentencing portion of the trial. And there must be at least 8 to 4. Must be 8 to 4. The jurors must vote in order for the judge to be able to impose the death penalty. As we know, here in the state of Florida, a death penalty jury does not have to be unanimous when recommending the death penalty. The only other option in this case, Garrett, is life in prison.
All right, there's certainly we'll be watching that closely coming up on Thursday. And finally, Nancy, a significant scam that was found out.
Yes, that's right. A Utah man is accused of scamming the city of Dunedin out of more than $600,000. Investigators say George Barlow pretended to be a contractor when he emailed the city of Dunedin last June. He said that he was with Asphalt Paving Systems, which had done work for the city for years. And court records show that Barlow, pretending to work for this Asphalt Paving Systems, requested that the city stop using paper checks to make payments, and instead they were to use an automated clearinghouse system. Records show that the city sent more than $663,000 to this new account, and that was processed back on June 20th of 2024. By the end of July of 2024, records show that Barlow spent, withdrew, or transferred more than $500,000. Bank of America later froze the account and returned nearly $150,000 to the city of Dunedin. Now, Barlow, he was arrested and extradited back to Pinellas County, where he's been charged with felony grand theft. And Garrett, he is being held without bond.
All right. My goodness, $600,000 from the city of Dunedin. Nancy, we appreciate you joining us for our Tampa connection today, and we will see you tomorrow.
Sounds good. Thank you.
We're going to take a break here on Florida Live, and we'll be right back. Welcome back into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon. It is a special election day here in Central Florida. We want to take a look at the Senate District 15. This is the seat that was held by the late Senator Geraldine Thompson. And today, it's special election to fill that seat. Some interesting dynamics about it. We've touched on it a little bit, but joining us to talk much more about this is Kimberly Leonard, reporter from POLITICO, Florida, the author of the Florida Playbook newsletter that you can get in your inbox every morning as well. And Kimberly, good to see you. We appreciate you joining us this afternoon.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So this is really an interesting race here. We're talking about this Senate District 15. First of all, just kind of set up for us, because this is considered a safe Democratic seat in the state legislature. So this being a Democratic primary is big.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing, right? Whoever wins is going to be headed into a situation where they're going to face a GOP supermajority. And so a lot of the folks that I interviewed really focused on how they would work to compromise and pass legislation despite facing that supermajority. So I thought that was an interesting point of conversation in looking at this race. You know, there are so few areas where Democrats thrive, and this district is certainly one. And it's also a place where, you know, if you can have that contrast, if you can make yourself, you know, a Democrat who's able to get some attention and maybe build that bench to maybe get into higher office someday, these seats can just be really interesting to watch in the long term.
Let's talk a little bit about the candidates here, because I know you had the chance to speak with them as well, but some really interesting things going on here.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't get more interesting than this, I feel like. So first of all, you have former State Senator Lavon Bracy, who was the first, I believe, to throw his hat in the ring. And he then later was so upset because he found out that his sister, who was a former House member who stayed in the legislature until recently, Lavon Bracy Davis, was also going to be running. And so he talked to me yesterday. He had just been very upset by the whole thing. He said that his father would have wanted them both to serve in the legislature at the same time, you know, her in the state house and him in the Senate. So he was pretty upset about that. And their mother has also taken sides in the race and endorsed their daughter. Now, she's not just, you know, their mom. She's also someone who's a lead civil rights activist in the state and who knew Geraldine Thompson for a really, really long time. They were really close friends. They actually go back to their time in college together. She was maid of honor at Thompson's wedding. So it's all very entangled in that way. And they're not even the only ones running. There's also Coretta Anthony Smith, who is a personal injury attorney. She raised more money than anyone else in the race, over $300,000. A good chunk of that was her self-donation, but she was able to bring a lot of kind of major folks onto her campaign team, including some who had worked on the Harris campaign in Florida. So she's someone to watch, I think, for sure. And then former Representative Alan Grayson, which, as you know, our viewers might know, served in Congress for quite some time, was a big firebrand there. And I was able to talk to all of them. And, you know, the thing about these special elections is that they can be huge wild cards just because so few people show up to vote. And so sometimes when it seems like, okay, one person might be edging ahead, and I would say in this case, it would be former Representative Lavon Bracy Davis, just because she also is someone that apparently Thompson wanted to succeed her. It's still not necessarily a sure thing. So, you know, we will find out early, which is good. That's one of the nice things about elections in Florida, but just this crazy dynamics of the race that's taking place.
Yeah, not only that, you also wrote in Florida Playbook about some of the disadvantages that even as the seeming favorite, Lavon Bracy Davis kind of faced for being in the state legislature for so long during this kind of extended session.
Exactly. So none of this was her fault. But the special election, first of all, when you're in the legislature, you are not allowed to fundraise while, you know, the legislature is in session. That's illegal. So she actually wasn't even able to go out and raise money until after they gavelled out, which was, you know, about a week ago. But she was able to raise $50,000 very quickly within 3 days. But it's, you know, still money can mean a lot in elections. It's not everything, but it certainly doesn't hurt, especially when a lot of people just don't know a special election is happening.
Yeah, certainly, like you said, kind of a wild card when you think of what the turnout might be. Just kind of hard to predict. Now, there's also another special election primary for the seat vacated by Lavon Bracy Davis in the House.
Yeah, exactly. So in that seat, again, it's all like interconnected, but Rashawn Young was her top aide in the state house, and that's the person that she wants to succeed her. But there's also former state representative Travaris McCurdy who's running. And he said to me, well, I have experience being in the legislature, so that's why I think I'm the best person. And he was also a former aide to state senators. And so that's, that's going to be another one. The House also has a Republican supermajority. And so again, anytime you get some of these sort of leftover Democratic seats, it offers opportunity to really be able to offer that contrast, to Florida voters, as Florida Democrats are really trying to sort of claw their way back to, not being in the super minority and really trying to come up with a message and so forth. So I don't know what's going to happen in that one either. I didn't see any good polling data on it. I think it's really going to be kind of a nail biter for both.
You talk about Florida Democrats trying to kind of build a way back and find a path forward. I know you wrote in yesterday's Florida Playbook about Andy Beshear, a Democratic governor from the very Republican state of Kentucky, who had a message for Florida Democrats over the weekend.
Yeah, so he spoke at their big fundraiser, which is in Hollywood, Florida, and he got a lot of applause. He became very dynamic. I spoke to him one-on-one ahead of time, but once he was on stage, he got especially dynamic, I would say. Either way, he was very much on message, the whole time. He obviously knew that he was being invited in to speak because people wanted, the secret sauce to how to win in a red state. I mean, he's won statewide 3 different times, first as state attorney general and twice as governor. And let's not forget that Trump won, Kentucky by 30 points in November. So it's even more than Trump won Florida by. So, his advice, some of it was really basic. He said, stop using terms like justice involve individuals, stop using terms like, what was one of the others? Just say hungry, for example, instead of food insecurity. So he was really urging Democrats to talk like normal people. That was one of his big messages. And he also told them to talk more about why they do things. So for example, he was able to veto sweeping anti-LGBTQ rights legislation in Kentucky. And then he went out and explained to people that the reason that he did it was actually because of his faith, because he felt that it was wrong to, pick on essentially vulnerable groups. And he said that he had a lot of people who disagreed with him, who approached him afterwards to say that they at least appreciated that he did what he thought was right. So he was really trying to get to the core of what he thought Democrats needed to do. It doesn't hurt that he's someone who's looking to run for president in 2028. So it's good for him to be, in states where he might be competing eventually. But I do have to say, after watching him, I think that Democrats in Florida have an extra challenge because Beshear benefited, first of all, his dad was governor, but he also benefited from already being in office, and being that incumbent, first as state attorney general and then as governor, to be able to sort of demonstrate a side-by-side of what, Republicans in the legislature were doing and then what he could do. The issue that a lot of Democrats have is that they're in such a minority and they don't hold any statewide office that it becomes much more difficult for them to make that distinction.
Yeah, certainly an uphill challenge in a lot of ways for them. Interesting to hear them get some of that advice from someone I covered, Andy Beshear, as a reporter in Kentucky back to his days as Attorney General. So it's been interesting to see his rise to national prominence, I think, as well. So Kimberly, Leonard, a lot of good stuff there. What, just quickly here before we let you go, I always like to ask you what's next, what we need to keep our eye on in Florida politics.
Yeah, I think some of the big questions, first of all, what the governor is going to do with the budget. Today, he was still hammering home the message of wanting to reduce property taxes. His actual words were, I want this more than anything else. So I don't think he's going to let that go, whether that means that he'll at least wait until next session or try to bring them into the special session. I don't know. But I think it's worth noting that the governor has a couple very big decisions to make. The position of state chief financial officer and lieutenant governor have not yet been filled. And I think they probably will fairly soon. So that's something that we're watching closely.
All right, Kimberly Leonard, reporter with Politico Florida and the author of the Florida Playbook newsletter. Always appreciate you joining us here on Florida Live.
Thanks so much.
We're going to take a break and we'll be right back. Welcome back into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon. We are just over 24 hours away from the start of the NBA draft. We know the Orlando Magic have the 25th overall pick, and also a Florida Gator making a lot of noise in this draft class as well. Going to be interesting to see where he winds up. And so joining us live now to talk about all this, break this down for us, and maybe give us a prediction or two is Brandon Kravitz, host of In the Zone on 96.9 The Game. Brandon, we appreciate you joining us this afternoon. Always good to talk with you.
Yeah, same to you. Exciting times.
It is exciting to think about and to talk about some basketball here in the off season. We know the Orlando Magic did get rid of some trade picks over the next few seasons, but 25th overall pick, what do you think they should be looking for from their first round pick this year?
I do think they need somebody that can step in and help right away. And trading away Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Cole Anthony in order to bring in Desmond Bane, which I think is a great move for the upside and the championship caliber direction of this team. You still need shooting on this roster. One player is not going to change your fortunes by that much. Statistically, the Magic were at the bottom of the league in terms of efficiency, shooting the three ball, and in volume. Desmond Bane is going to help tremendously with that, but he can't be there by himself. You're going to have to see improvements from other players that are already on the roster, but a great way to get better in a very cheap way is to just draft somebody that you feel confident in playing right away, kind of like they did with Tristan da Silva a year ago, a guy that I think we are going to see more run from in the 25-26 season. So I want to see them draft a pure shooter. That's what I would like to see them do. Walter Clayton Jr. is somebody that everyone is excited about. I fear for Magic fans out there that they are selling themselves on just one player. It's the only guy I ever hear about. And I get it. I want them to draft him too. But if he's the only player you'll be happy with, chances are you'll be disappointed by the time we get to 25. So I do have some other names that we can discuss here. Hope we can get some Magic fans excited about somebody else.
Yeah, because Walter Clayton Jr., we've also heard him tied to the Heat as well, who pick 5 picks ahead of the Magic.
Yeah, exactly. So the Miami Heat were supposed to pick at around 15. That is a deal that went the way of Oklahoma City, oddly enough. OKC inside of the top 15, even though they just won a championship. The rich continue to get richer there. Walter Clayton Jr. is the kind of guy that the Heat would typically go after, so that makes perfect sense. Forget about the size, forget about the age. This guy is nails. He's a great three-point shooter. He's clutch. He is dynamic in terms of his mix of pure shooting, tough shot making, ball skills. You know, he's got it all. The guy is just simply a hooper, and that's the kind of player the Heat go after. They don't care about all of those measurables. So that's one of the reasons that I think Miami has been as successful as they've been. Now, the Magic have a higher upside right now, so you could also say that their talent development has been just as good, if not better, lately, because typically what they are after are guys that present a higher upside than what Walter Clayton Jr. Is going to bring to the table. I would like to sell you on somebody by the name of Liam McNeely out of UConn. He's a 6'8" forward. He fits exactly with the type of player, the build that the Magic are looking for. Not a great three-point shooter percentage-wise, but if you watch this guy play, the shot is pure. So for him to be a knockdown shooter in dribble handoff situations and catch and shoot would not surprise me in the slightest. He's an absolute demon on the court. So that's an area they could look. Jace Richardson, who's the son of former Magic player Jason Richardson, also an exciting player, and statistically was actually a better three-point shooter than Walter Clayton Jr. was. This is a guy, though, that is not going to pass the measurables test. He is just 6'1", which is Steph Curry range. And unless you're one of the best three-point shooters in the league, 6'1" can be a problem in the NBA because he's the kind of guy that you would have to hide on defense. But there are more players that the Magic can go after than just simply Walter Clayton Jr. And I also think that adding rim protection wouldn't be the worst idea either. A household name for college basketball fans, a guy by the name of Ryan Kalkbrenner is going to be drafted right around that range. He averaged 2.7 blocks per game out of Creighton last year.
So are you saying we might see the Magic draft someone other than guards?
I think it's absolutely possible. I think the Magic really aren't the kind of team that obsesses over position anyway. They are very positionless. I mean, and they've said that over the years, and they have certainly backed that up. The Magic still don't have a true point guard because I don't think they care. I think they want all 5 guys to be able to bring the ball up the court, set up the offense if they need to, and that's the sort of amoeba style that they want to run. They drafted Anthony Black a couple of years ago. I think people thought, okay, this is going to be the natural point guard. Turns out that's not really where his skills are best suited. He's kind of better as an off-ball player that does have the ability to pass, and it seems like all of their guys fit that mold where they could be a guard, they could be a forward, they could play at the 5 if they need to. That's just sort of the way the Magic have built this team. So it's always tough because I fall into that same trap. When I think basketball, I think of the 5 positions: point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. I'm telling you, the Magic do not care what your position is. It is very much what is your skill level and how versatile can you be on our basketball team.
If you had to give us a one name who you think it's going to be at that 25th pick for the Magic, who would you say you think it's going to be?
I think if we're being realistic, it's going to be a guy that we haven't thought of yet. Somebody by the name of you know what? I'll give you the name, and then that way we can at least say as a group that we heard it. Maxime Reynaud, 7'1" out of Stanford. He averaged 20 points and 11 rebounds last year. He's also an older prospect like Walter Clayton Jr., 22 years old, but a lot of college basketball people that I talked to say that he was perhaps the second best player in the ACC last year behind only Cooper Flagg. I'm not saying he's the prospect of Cooper Flagg. I'm just saying that in ACC play, he was outstanding, and he can help the Magic in terms of another big that can help you if you end up moving off of a Mo Wagner, if you end up trading Goga Bitadze or Wendell Carter Jr. I think he can help fill that sort of role as a rim protector that can score in a pinch, a productive player that can help you. It's hard to find guys that are 7'1" that can help you day one, and I think he can be that. That's Maxime Reynaud. Go ahead and write that one down.
Yeah, you better write that one down because I don't know if you remember last year, you nailed it. You hit the nail on the head. So we'll see if you can keep the streak going here on Fox Local.
I will do my best. It's a high bar to clear, especially when you're picking at 25. But we'll be up late into the night. I'm curious to see when this pick actually gets selected, what time it's going to be when this goes down. I think we're going to be inching close to 11 o'clock at night.
Maybe that's the real thing to place those bets on. We'll see.
Yeah, exactly. Over under 10:30. I'm going to set the line there.
Yeah, definitely over my bedtime. I can tell you that. Brandon Kravitz, host of In the Zone on 96.9 The Game. Always good talking with you. We appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much, Garrett.
We're going to take a break and we'll be right back. Welcome back into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. There's been a lot of talk today about fentanyl and the border crisis. It was something we heard talked about by the Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd that we covered in Tampa Connection. Senator Ashley Moody talked about it in a committee meeting on Capitol Hill earlier today. And James Othmeyer, the Florida Attorney General, holding a news conference just a little bit ago at the Suwannee County Emergency Operations Center in Live Oak, where he talked about he was joined by the sheriff there, some other officials talking about the fentanyl that was seized in a large bus, 2 pounds of fentanyl that was seized there, and a couple of arrests made. Here's some of that news conference from just a little bit ago.
What this does is it's proof positive that strength in numbers, law enforcement agencies coming together as one, can accomplish many, many great things. This amount of dope that was taken off the streets could be responsible for 2 million lethal doses.
Seeing this, it's just another example of how the open border under the Biden administration has put so many people in danger. A lot of this dangerous fentanyl is coming from China. We know that. It's a new era of warfare. It's not coming from the sky or the seas. It's coming across the border, and it's working its way into every community in our country. But here in Florida, we're going to crack down. Our Office of Statewide Prosecution is excited to work alongside law enforcement, work alongside Sheriff St. John and sheriffs from across Florida. We got the best sheriffs in the country. So we're going to put these 2 guys away. We're going to get, these, 12,500 pills and over 3 pounds of powder, enough fentanyl to kill over 2 million people. We're going to get it off the streets. We're going to continue to crack down, and we'll do everything we can to support law enforcement. Thank you. Oh, I should say before I have Deputy Commissioner Pollard come, this is the result of the SAFE program in Florida, a wonderful grant program that FDLE helps manage that provides grants to local law enforcement to help them bust fentanyl cases. I'll let him go into the details, but it's a wonderful program. I hope our legislature will continue to support it for the foreseeable future because it is saving lives. The results truly do speak for themselves. So.
Suwannee County, like I say, we've got we partnered up with our North Star task force, and we've here again we've got let's say a small task force here, drug task force. That's why we pair up with the North Star, and then with that there, it just kind of snowballed into what we have here today. Here again, I don't have a whole lot of details. I'll pass on to Chief. He has a little more details. He's a little more involved in than I was, and I'll just let him kind of touch on that for us.
Information was received here in Suwannee County, and through the North Star attachment and our investigators doing their job, it just, like the sheriff said, it just got bigger. The information was received here. We got information that they were pushing fentanyl greatly in our community, and that's how this all came to be. Yes, sir.
Could you tell me a little bit about the suspects? Are they from the area, and do you know if these drugs were headed anyplace else other than Suwannee?
Well, with that amount of drugs, obviously it was going to multiple places, and with that kind of powder, they could be pressed into thousands of other pills. So not just saying that it was going to be here in Suwannee County, but again, Suwannee County is the midpoint of Florida. These drugs are distributed throughout our nation. And that's why it's important that something like this took place. Ron Wilson is from Arizona. That's why it led us to Arizona. Our investigators themselves went out there with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office to effect this arrest. Mr. Hughes is from Jacksonville. So as you see, it spans. The reach of an illegal dealer is unlimited. He just happened to run into the wrong group of country boys that were willing to go the extra mile to effect an arrest.
What do you want the community to know about today's announcement, and how can they stay safe?
Well, here's what we need them to know. We need them to know and trust in their local law enforcement. Even though there's the times when you start talking about a year-long investigation, it seems like nothing's being done. That's the hard part for us as well. A lot of folks want to talk about what's not happening, but they're not seeing what is happening underneath everything. These take time. They take patience. Nothing ever works as planned. You always have to improvise on what's happening. We just have to keep and remind our citizens that we have to maintain a steady fight against the dangerous drugs that are out there. And I don't know that we've seen the best of everything yet. They're continuing to change the way drugs are manufactured. We're dealing with synthetic opioids as we are talking now that has a legal, usable form, but that's not what's happening. We just need to remind folks to stay alert and keep your eyes and ears open and talk to us as law enforcement. We're gaining the support of our citizens back again in the state of Florida. That's one thing I can tell you. When you've got the backing of our governor and all of these agencies that are around you, we're going to make a difference. It's not going to be overnight, but through time and investigation such as this and the drive that these men and women have, we're going to continue to be successful in this drug war.
Can I add something?
Yes, sir.
One other thing, people at home should know is, fentanyl's finding its ways into so many other different drugs. People today, young kids will be smoking a joint, they won't realize it's been laced with fentanyl, and it kills you. In the smallest of quantities, it can kill you. Here's Suwannee County. Why Suwannee? It's because it's everywhere. Yes. Here, you just got people that, are man enough to go out there and bust these guys. But it is everywhere. So, here it would have killed the whole county multiple times over if it all ended up here. It seems very likely it was going to move on and be distributed further. But, the reason the governor's such a big fan of the program is it's helping law enforcement in every single county because it's got to be an all-in interagency approach if we're going to fully eradicate this great threat to our state. Thanks.
Just add on just a little more to your question there. I do want to give applause to my investigators here, my drug task investigators, and also with the North Star. If it wasn't for, just like Chief was saying, if it wasn't us, for all us partnered together, this wouldn't happen all. And since we've become partners with North Star, my drug task investigators, they've done an outstanding job. This is just one case that they've done. It's a fairly big case, as y'all see, but I can't tell you the number of cases that they have been involved in to eradicate drugs here in Suwannee County. And I want to make a big shout out to my drug task investigators and the North Star because they've done an outstanding job for us.
We'll be right back with more Florida Live after this. Welcome back into Florida Live, and here's a live look at Jerusalem, where we know another rescue flight from carrying evacuees from Israel landed in Tampa this morning. 150 people on board that flight. This is from those ongoing rescue missions that Grable Rescue is partnering with some officials here in Florida to bring those Americans back home, get them out of the country of Israel. This is the fifth flight, officials say. More than 2,000 Americans have been brought back so far. We heard this morning from some officials at the airport, including State Senator Jay Collins and Kevin Guthrie, who's the executive director of the Florida Division of Emergency Management.
It's been quite an adventure the last, 10 days or so, 9 days. In my experience, life often presents us with moments where we have maximum opportunity to really make a difference in the lives of others. The thing that I'm most proud of about this is we stuck to our guns here in Florida. We know that it is people over politics. It is about putting forward our best effort to take care of our people. When we asked about going forward, Governor DeSantis, Kevin Guthrie, Grable Rescue, all partnered together because we share that same ethos, that same desire to really truly serve the people. I want to thank Layla, Gabe, and Colt. Thank you for your grace. Thank you for sticking by me and putting up with my craziness in terms of running off to Israel and Jordan to go bring our people home. But that's really what this is about. It's not politics. It is about people. It is about our people, our community, our citizens. As leaders, we have a responsibility to do what's right, no matter the cost, no matter how hard it is. And I think you see that that's what Florida has historically done, and that's what we must continue to do. We must not diverge from that. I want to thank Kevin Guthrie and the entire Florida Department of Emergency Management. I know we take it for granted sometimes that all things in disaster are going to go well. Well, frankly, it's because of him and his entire team that we're able to do that. He is the very best at what he does in this great country of ours. I want to thank our partners at Grable Rescue. I've known Andy for quite a while. I've known Brian, who's still downrange, for a very long time as well. They're incredible. They are the subject matter experts. They know what they're doing, and they put nothing over the safety and security of our people on the ground. We partnered together because we trust them, we know them, and we put our citizens first. And of course, I got to thank Governor Ron DeSantis for his dedication, his leadership, and his commitment to courage and doing what's right. In this state, people have attacked us many times for doing what we believe in, but he is steadfast, he has stood strong, and we will always put our people first. As a retired Green Beret, I know unequivocally that one person can make a difference, and when you have a team of people like this, you can do incredible things. With the group coming back behind us on this next flight, we'll be coming up just around over 2,000 American citizens brought back from Israel. This was quite a laborious process. Each one's a little bit different from the next. We picked them up in multiple places in Israel. We brought them back through a border crossing site in Jordan. We went from Jordan at the border crossing site to Amman, Amman to the airport, airport to Cyprus, Cyprus here to Tampa. I would like to say that it went exactly as planned, but often we can't determine what happens. We can only determine what we do with what happens around us. I want to thank our passengers and the people who trusted in us and did what they needed to do to keep themselves safe, the rest of the team safe, and I want to thank them for their grace and their courage in doing what had to be done. This was not easy on any of them, but more than anything, I just want to say welcome home and welcome back to Florida. Thank you, God bless them, and God bless each of you.
So that was the state senator.